Thank you again, everybody, for joining us tonight. My name is Chirafisi, and I am a home inspector in the lovely state of Wisconsin. I'm also a state licensed building inspector, and then I have some ancillary service certifications that we'll talk about and I'll explain. I'm also a technical trainer with AHIT, or American Home Inspectors Training. I've been doing technical training since 2007 with AHIT, and I've been a home inspector since 2002. So what we did with this webinar is we took a lot of questions that we have received throughout the years from individuals like yourself that are interested in becoming a home inspector, but aren't really sure of what questions maybe to ask or where to get the answers. So we compiled this webinar with slides and information to hopefully answer a lot of those questions for you. Now, as we go through this webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to type in the questions tab any questions that you might have, and they will be answered by our admission staff. We do have some of our admission team members on the webinar tonight to answer questions such as, how much is the training? Where's the live training locations in my area? What are my state requirements, and so forth. And then at the very end, I will open it up and look to see what questions maybe that our team did not get to, because everybody is on mute just because of the amount of attendees that we have. Otherwise, we'd have just a lot of background noise and it could be a little chaotic. So let's get started. Now I'll open up all these bullet points here. So it's estimated, we'll just round this up, that approximately 80% of homes in the United States are inspected. You're always going to have a small percentage of people that don't have a home inspection, or they don't put that in their offer to purchase. And typically, what we see when that kind of comes in play is they got into a bidding war, and the other person that they're bidding against waived the home inspection contingency. So then they're waiving their home inspection contingency. It's not really a smart thing to do, obviously, but you'd be amazed how emotionally attached people get to homes. And right now, it's at least in my area, there's not a ton of inventory, so it's pretty crazy out there. Anything that's decent that comes on the market, there's multiple offers. I just had a realtor tell me last week that his client offered $75,000 over asking and did not get the property. So it's pretty crazy. But 90% of, or let me just back up. So you have people that waive the home inspection contingency. You also have people that, let's say, build a house that think they shouldn't have their house inspected. I think that is a horrible idea of waiving your home inspection contingency, or you decide, if you're building the house, not to have it looked at. An example, I just built a house. In my attic, because it's been really just frigid cold here in Wisconsin the last couple of weeks. So being a home inspector, I wanted to see if there was any heat loss. So heat loss, typically when it's super, super cold, will show itself via frost on the underside of roof decking. So I went into my attic and I'm looking around, and I built a modular home, by the way. So built in a factory. So I'm looking around and there's a plumbing vent, and the plumbing vent did not terminate through the top or through the roof decking. Now, when the house was delivered, I went through the house. I was actually in the attic with the plumber, and I said, "Why is this not going outside?" And he said, "It's not being used for anything. I'll cap it, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Are you positive about that?" And he said, "Yes." Well, it is definitely one of my stool stacks, and there was a significant amount of frost buildup and ice in that area because of the warm air coming through the vent. I just did an inspection on a brand new condo today, brand new, and it's not a huge deal, but the HVAC company that installed the furnace, and this is a $400,000 condo, did not put an air filter in. The kitchen exhaust fan was not vented. It was a recirculating one, but they actually had it blocked, so it wasn't exhausting. So you're still going to have those people that think, you know, it's new, or they get into a bidding war, so they waive their contingency. But the majority of people that are buying a house will have their home inspected. Realtors recommend it to their client, and the majority of your client is going to be the buyer of the property, so the person that's buying the house. And I just want to make sure, can everybody hear me here? I just got a few, and sorry to, I just want to make sure you can hear me, because it looks like some people had typed that they cannot hear anything. Okay, good. All right, perfect. Thank you guys for responding. So 90% of inspections are going to be for the buyer. This week, I think I have 10 inspections, and all 10 are for people buying the homes. They do have listing inspections, which listing inspections or pre-sale inspections are done for the seller. So before they list the property, they have a home inspector go through, you fill out your inspection report, just like you would for the buyer, deliver the report, and then usually they will address the bigger items that they know are going to be an issue when they find an actual buyer of the property. So the realtor will look at that and say, yeah, we should probably have this fixed because it'll be flagged, you know, when we do actually sell the property. This is a referral-based business. So the majority of your business is going to be coming from the real estate industry. Now, realtors are my number one referral source. So again, just giving you an example. So if I have 10 inspections this week, all 10 of those inspections came from different real estate agents that I have met, that I have marketed my business to. And the reason that we want our referrals, or we want our business coming from referral sources, such as the realtor, is because we don't have to work as hard to sell ourselves, to sell the business, to sell our services to that client, because the real estate agent has already done that for them, or has done it for us. So when the client calls, usually like 9 out of 10 times when they call, and the call is coming from, again, being referred by the real estate agent, they will usually call, the client will usually call and say, I need to book a home inspection. So again, I don't have to work as hard on selling myself as, let's say, if I marketed just via the internet, like on Google. So now that's absolutely another way you can market, but you now are going to have to sell yourself. You may think, well, I have a great looking website, which is fantastic, good. But often when people find you via the internet, they're price shopping. You may have the most beautiful website. You may have the best resume for a home inspector that's out there. But if you are not offering the cheapest price for a home inspection, often they will go elsewhere, even though you may be the most qualified. It's like they want a Mercedes for the price of a Kia. And there's nothing wrong with a Kia, but they want basically the best, or whatever car you think is the best, for the cheapest price. And it doesn't work that way. You know, if my normal inspection fee, and here it says is $375, but if my normal, and it's going to vary depending on where you live, but if I charge $400 and somebody calls me from via, you know, the internet, they found me online, and they say, you know, what do you charge? And I say, I charge $400. Here's my, you know, kind of my bio, and I go through all of that. And they may say, well, I just called another company that will do it for $375. Will you match that price? Well, if I'm normally charging 400, I'm not going to reduce my price so I can book that inspection because I still have liability. I still am doing the same home inspection that, I'm not shortcutting anything. I'm still doing the same exact inspection that I would do for somebody else that I'm charging $400 for. So I'm not going to reduce my price to get the home inspection. And I've lost business that way, where people have, called how much, and often when that's the first question, how much for a home inspection, usually, not always, but usually they're price shopping. And I've gone through my bio, which, I didn't start off having it, but, being a building inspector, doing REAC inspections, having all these different certifications, and they didn't really care. They just wanted the cheapest price. And I said, and now I do say this to people that, and it's not very often that it happens, because again, I don't do any marketing via the internet. Often I will just say to them, you know what, if you're looking for the cheapest price, I am not going to be that inspector. You're going to find a cheaper home inspection. And I wish you, the best of luck. If things don't work out, please give me a call. And that's kind of it. And like I said, the average inspection is $375, $385. Usually urban, more populated areas, the price of the inspection goes up. Same thing if you're in a regulated or a licensed state. Typically, the price of the home inspection will go up. And then most home inspectors will add ancillary services to their inspection services. You absolutely should be offering these add-on services. So let's say you're in an area that radon testing is common, okay? And you do 400 inspections a year. Let's say 85% of the inspections that you perform, clients request a radon test, okay? So that's 340 radon tests. Now, if you're charging, let's say $150 per radon test, now that is also going to vary depending on where you live. Just by doing radon testing alone, if you're doing 400 home inspections a year, okay, and you do 340 radon tests, $51,000 would be the additional ancillary income, gross income. That does not include the home inspection fee. So if you charge, let's just say, we'll use a small number, let's say $350. So if you charge $350 and you're doing 400 inspections a year, that's $140,000. And then you add the $51,000 on top of that. So that is $191,000 gross. That is that's a lot of money. That's more money than the majority of the population makes. So being a home inspector can be a very lucrative occupation or career. But if you don't offer the ancillary services, your competitors are going to. So why would you let that, let's say $51,000, go to a competitor? Real estate agents want to work with or whoever your referral source is, but especially realtors, they want to work with a one-stop shop. Think about it just in your own life. If you had to have something done, let's say you were remodeling your house or finishing your basement, whatever it is, and you could call one company that offered and professional, because you could say, well, a handyman can do it. Well, they're not really in the same kind of category of what we're talking about here. So let's say you wanted a licensed electrician, you wanted a qualified, I always say qualified electrician, qualified HVAC tech, qualified plumber, and so forth. If you could call one company that did all of that, maybe they're a little bit more expensive, but you could call one company that did it all. You would probably go with that company. I would, because of the convenience of, with building this house, I was the the general contractor on this, and it was a pain. If I could have just made one call for the basement, for everything else, it would have saved me so much time. But that really didn't exist for me, at least where I'm located. So that's what I'm talking about when I say real estate agents, they want to work with a company. If radon is common in your area, if radon testing, if termite inspections are common in your area, they want to make one call where whatever it is, if it's safe and sound home inspection services, I need to set up a home inspection, I need to set up the radon test, and I also need to set up a termite inspection. Perfect, we can do it all. That's a lot of additional money that you can make. The average income of a single home inspector is $70,000. You can make $70,000 part-time. That's 5 inspections a week, which is super comfortable. Like, I love doing 1 inspection a day. Super comfortable. Now, I'm not going to turn down doing 2 inspections a day. So make sure too that you space your inspections out. So like today I did my first inspection, which was a duplex. I scheduled for 10 a.m. and then I had a condo inspection this afternoon. And I knew that, just because again, I've been doing this a while, I knew what time I would finish the duplex, or I'd have an idea. And I knew that, okay, my condo inspection isn't very far away, so I scheduled that one at 2 o'clock. So I arrived early to the duplex, finished the outside, went inside at 10 a.m., got done with the duplex, because again, I have my software, everything set up with custom templates and everything. I finished my duplex at 11:45. So it gave me time to go home, email the report, and then it gave me enough time to go to the next inspection. Tomorrow, I have a duplex at 10 a.m., and then I have a single family home at 4 p.m. As long as I can see the exterior before it gets dark out, that's all I care about. I'll finish an inspection if it's dark, and that'll happen tomorrow. So just make sure that you're spacing your things out. But if you can do 2 inspections a day, do 2 inspections a day. But if you just want to do 1 inspection a day, or maybe 3 inspections a week, totally up to you. Now, liability, that was a question that I had when I got involved, or I should say, when I was researching becoming a home inspector. I'm in a state, Wisconsin is a state where you cannot limit liability. Wisconsin, Massachusetts, and California, those are 3 states that you cannot limit your liability. Other states you can, meaning basically you can have something in your inspection agreement that states you are liable only up to the cost of the home inspection. But now, no matter what you do, whatever career path you decide to take, there's always going to be some liability involved. It doesn't matter if you're a cop, an airline pilot, a fireman, an IT coder. There's always some liability involved with what you do. But now, from a home inspection standpoint, there's a lot of things that we can do to reduce our liability. Now, going through professional training is first and foremost, and I'm not saying this because I train for a home inspection company. I'm telling you this from experience of being an actual home inspector, because it's not all about technical. You may, when you're researching these different schools that are out there, and there's a lot of them that have popped up in the last 5-10 years. When you are researching them, a lot of them are just going to push technical. There is a lot more to being a successful home inspector than just technical knowledge. You, of course, have to have technical knowledge, but you also have to have good people skills. You have to have good communication, and you have to have good report writing, because you're not going to inspect on every inspection that you go through a house that is brand new. You're going to inspect older homes that have things that need attention. So how you relay that information to your client is what will keep you in business. The worst thing that a home inspector can be called in the industry is either a deal break, and they mean pretty much kind of the same thing, either a deal breaker or an alarmist. When you get labeled a deal breaker or an alarmist by a real estate agent, that agent is never going to use you again. And they talk to other agents that are in their office. So remember that, okay? So that's why I'm saying it's not just all about technical. When you find something that needs attention, how you relay that information to your client is what is going to keep you relevant. And that is what we work on when you go through our training. Having the client with you reduces your liability by about 75%. That's a huge percentage because the client is watching you do these things. They're watching, when I say these things, they're watching you check outlets. They're watching you flush a toilet. They're watching you turn on a faucet, look under a sink. They're watching you remove the electrical panel and look inside of it. They're watching you open and close doors. So it's like I kind of compare it to if you take your car to be serviced. Let's say you take it to the dealership. You drive it into their little bay area, whatever, and they say, okay, so you're here for a noise, whatever. Then they drive your car away, and we don't know what they're doing to our vehicle. We have no idea. Then they bring our car back, whatever, hour and a half after, and they say, oh, we found this. It's going to be $500. Now, hopefully they're an honest shop, but I didn't watch them do it. So I am going to be more inclined to call them back if I hear any noise similar to why I brought my vehicle in, or I feel something, if it's a vibration or whatever. But it's different though when people are watching you do something. They're less likely to get angry. They're less likely to bring you into some sort of legal dispute. Plus, you get to build rapport with them. So I always recommend that my client be at the inspection. And it's not just about liability. I want them to see their house. I want them to learn about their house so I can show them things. A home inspection agreement is an absolute necessity. Do not, and of course we hope that you go through our training, but if you don't go through our training, remember this. Don't ever perform a home inspection without a signed inspection agreement, ever. An inspection report. Now, the inspection report is probably the most important thing. And by the way, the agreement is a legal contract. We just say agreement because it's not as harsh as contract. So the inspection report is probably the most important thing that a home inspector carries. Because at the end of the day, the report is what guides us through the inspection. At the end of the day, the report is what would show up if there was a dispute on something. The report is what we deliver to the client, which may be something that is in that report that saves them $10,000. I did an inspection, was it last summer? And there were a lot of structural problems in this basement of this house. And I recommended, I didn't have to tell them, home inspectors don't tell them how to do things or how much. But the framing in this house, like the beams, the columns, the floor joists, everything it needed attention. Okay, so I recommended actually a structural engineer on this one. And normally I don't recommend a structural engineer unless something is really, really wrong. But I did recommend a structural engineer, and the engineer came in and said, wow, because the client talked to me after this, and the engineer came in and made a list of basically what needed to be repaired. And the seller actually agreed to it. And it cost this seller $51,000. I charged like, what did I charge? I think it was 400 for the home inspection. So I got 400 bucks. My client got basically a new new framing in their house. Oh, they also got a new air conditioner because their air conditioner was underneath a deck, and I put that in the report that I recommend that it be relocated. And the seller must have had a really good day or whatever, but the seller said, we'll have a new air conditioner installed. So the report is a big thing. They're going to want to see that report. They're going to want to see what's documented in the report before a seller agrees to anything. Carrying proper insurance. So some states require insurance, general liability. Some states will require errors and omissions insurance. We work with a company called OREP, which that's who I have for my insurance, and I pay, I think, about $1,000 a year for errors and omissions and general liability. So I'm just taking a drink of water here. Then with a business, you're going to form a business. Most home inspectors will form a business of some sort. The most common is going to be a limited liability company. There's sole proprietorship. There's S Corp, C Corp. So when you form a company, talk to an accountant, talk to an attorney, and they'll point you in the right direction. And then when you do go through our training, we offer unlimited technical support. And it's not just while you're going through the training, it's for as long as you are a home inspector. Now, this next slide is one of the big reasons that people get into this profession. So home inspection offers a lot of flexibility. So you could do this part-time or full-time. I would call it a salaried. I'm a salaried instructor, so I'm a full-time instructor with AHIT. Now, I don't teach every single day, but when I'm not teaching, I am performing home inspections. So that gives me the opportunity to do inspections part-time. Now, of course, when I have to teach a class, I'm not doing home inspections, which is fine because I love the balance. I love teaching people, and it's, people always say, well, learn from your mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes, because in the home inspection industry, we don't get often a second chance with a real estate agent. So I love to talk about, things, and I've lost agents. Everybody does. When you first start out, you make rookie mistakes, and it is what it is, but learn from, the people that are teaching these classes. Maybe you're in a job that you absolutely hate and you want to do this full time. You absolutely can do this full time. There's multi-inspector firms. There's inspectors that, are just one-stop shops. A buddy of mine is just a one-stop shop. It's just him, and he's been doing it for 21 years, I think. So it's totally up to you. You choose the hours you want to work. Like this weekend, I'm going out of town, taking a little vacation. I had a realtor call me today and said, hey, can you do an inspection, in the next couple days? And I said, unfortunately, I'm booked. I'll be out of town on Friday through Sunday. And he said, okay, could you do Monday then? So I said, absolutely. When they like you, when they trust you, they'll wait for you. Most home inspection companies or most home inspectors will run their own business. And that's what I recommend. Being your own boss is fantastic. Maybe you want to work for an already established company. Nothing wrong with that. We have a lot of companies looking for our graduates. Home inspector franchise, I probably wouldn't go that route. If you decide to move, you can still practice. So if you decide to move to another state, that experience, everything follows you. Now, you may have to meet some additional educational requirements. For example, and again, I apologize, got to take a drink of water here. If you live in, let's say, Iowa, so Iowa is an unregulated state, meaning you could, if you live in Iowa, you could perform a home inspection tomorrow and not have any training, which is crazy, but there's approximately 35 states that have some sort of regulation or licensing. But now if you lived in Iowa and you said, you know what, I'm gonna move to Florida. Well, of course, any experience would follow you, but Florida is a regulated state, and Florida requires you to take an exam and have a certain amount of hours of training under your belt. So you would have to satisfy those requirements, which we can help you with that. So that's just something that, you know, if you decide, hey, I want to retire from the cold climate, if you live in a cold climate and maybe you want to supplement your income because you don't want to, you know, just do nothing. You want to stay a little sharp and, you know, just get some extra income. You can absolutely do that if you decide to move to another area. And a college degree is not required. If you have one, fantastic. If you don't worry. The minimum requirement for a regulated state would be either a GED or a high school diploma. And the startup expenses are very, very low compared to other businesses. You know, our biggest expense is going to be training. Again, depending on where you live, you buy your tools. Let's say with tools, you know, with a tablet, I would say, let's say $300. That's what I have on my belt, because I have a I have a flashlight, I have a 3-prong tester, I have a thermometer. I have basically everything that I need on an inspection that I use often. And we go through all of that in the training too on how to use these things. I just bought a new tablet. I just actually got it today for my business because the one that I had been using, I only use the tools and the tablet that I currently have for home inspection. Nothing else. I don't play games on them. I don't do anything. When I'm not doing a home inspection, my tablet, for example, is not being used. It's off. And that's probably why it has lasted, actually, I think 6 years now. It's 6 years old. So I just bought a new tablet today. That was the newest piece of equipment that I bought. That tablet was a little bit more. I spent $500 on a tablet. You don't have to spend $500 on a tablet. You can buy a Samsung Tab, T-A-B, A as an Apple. So Samsung Tab A, it's like $150. The one that I bought is a little bit different. It's got a flash on it. It's waterproof. It's shockproof. It's got all this stuff on it. It's got a stylus pen. If you live in a cold climate, I would recommend that you get something with a stylus pen, so you don't have to take your gloves off, by the way. But startup expenses are going to be considerably low, and you're going to start making money back very, very quickly. Again, just do the math. Let's say all in, and I'm just throwing a rough number out, okay? With the training, with everything, this is just a rough number. Let's say it's $4,000 or $5,000, okay? If you do 10 inspections a week and you are charging $400 per inspection, well, there's $4,000 right there. That does not include ancillary services. So that's 1 week, and you have paid for your education, you've paid for your insurance, you've paid for all of your tools, your software, your hardware. So do the math on that. Now, if you live in a regulated state, which I had mentioned that it's approximately 35 now, make sure that you are choosing a school that is approved in that state. Go to the state's website to confirm that that school that you're talking to is approved. Is live training, distance learning, or both required? Depends on where you live. Our admissions team can help you with those questions. Does my state require an exam? Is it a state-specific exam, or is it the National Home Inspector exam? Out of those 35 states, I want to say 34, might even be all 35, require the National Home Inspector's exam. And if you live in a state that requires that exam, we are the only training school in the country that gives you 2 books that are written by the Examination Board of Professional Home Inspectors. That's the group that writes the national exam. We include those study books in your materials. Does my state require me to do ride-along inspections? Again, it's going to depend on where you live. Some states do require ride-alongs. Does my state have specific standards of practice, or can I use a national associations? I hate to keep saying it, but it depends where you live. Most states that have licensing will use the AHIT standards of practice. AHIT is a national association. It's the American Society of Home Inspectors. They are like I said, they're the oldest. They've been around since 1976. And a lot of the state licensing and regulations and all of that are because of AHIT. So they do a fantastic job. And then, are there specific insurance requirements? Some states, like I mentioned, have insurance requirements, some don't. Even if you live in a state that doesn't require insurance, I would highly encourage you to carry it. That is your ultimate protection at the end of the day, is insurance. It's like driving a car. Hopefully you don't get into an accident, and you may drive your car for 30 years and not the same car, maybe the same car, but maybe you've been driving for 30 years and you don't have any accidents. Now, we continue to pay that car insurance, but it's that one time that something happens that we're thankful that we carry insurance. Now, what if I live in a state that does not regulate or license inspectors? Why should I go through the training? I've been a builder for 30 years. Why should I go through the training? I know how a house is built, or I've been an electrician for 30 years. I wouldn't argue with that. You know how a house is built. You know how a house is built up to code. That's what you know. You're not inspecting brand new houses every day. If you're an electrician, you are repairing and installing things up to the latest electrical code. Home inspectors, we don't deal with code. We're going to go into a house like my duplex, or the duplex that I did this morning was built in like 1908. I'm not doing a code inspection. I'm looking to make sure everything is safe. Now, you may find something like in this house, there were a lot of open junction boxes. That's an easy fix. Just needs a cover. They had an undersized wire on one of the breakers in the panel. All right, easy fix. But we're not doing a code inspection. The days of, and this is how it used to be, the days of basically a builder or a contractor showing up to a property after a day's work, walking around the property and giving basically a checklist and saying, this is what needs to be repaired. Those days are long gone. Because remember, real estate agents, which are our #1 referral source, they want to work with individuals who have the proper training and skills. So if a realtor asks you and says, hey, why should I use you? If you threw at them, well, I've been a builder for 30 years, they're going to say, so what? So has 90% of home inspectors that are out there. What makes you different? And you can't say, well, I build custom homes. They're going to say, we don't care. A better response would be, I'm professionally trained and certified. Not only did my training focus on the technical aspects of inspecting a home, but it also focused on communication and report writing. What I mean by that is, we all know a perfect home does not exist. So when I'm going through the home and I find something that may need attention, I will deliver those findings to your client in a non-alarming, educational manner. that's the response that a realtor wants. They want to know that you are not a deal breaker. So just remember that. So if you are in a regulated state, once you have your license, how do you keep it? So every state is different. Typically, the states that have licensing are either going to have a 1 or a 2-year renewal period. A lot of the states have 2 years, and a lot of times you're going to have a certain amount of continuing education, or CE, completed. Like, I live in Wisconsin. We are a regulated state where you have to register as a home inspector, and it is required that every 2-year renewal cycle that I have to complete 40 hours of education. So it can be done online, it can be done through seminars. CE is very easy to obtain. And if you need CE, we do have a vast library. I like attending training seminars. Online courses, they're fine. I mean, they're fine, especially with this crazy pandemic going on. And that's, the way a lot of things have gone recently. But, being at these conventions, and hopefully one day we'll be able to do that again, is really fantastic, because you can ask questions, you interact with other inspectors, and so forth. Now, your background. This one is near and dear to my heart, because this was one that I had a lot of questions on when I was interested in becoming a home inspector. I did not have any sort of technical background, none. I went to college, my major was philosophy. And, I still can't keep a straight face when I say that. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's not a lot you can do with it. So when I was researching this, I had about 99% of people say to me, you don't have a construction, and they were other home inspectors. You don't have a construction background, you cannot do this. The 1% that said I could do it was AHIT. So I went through the training. I did a lot of practice inspections before I opened up for business. And this is my 3rd home inspection company. I sold 2 of them. I'm on my 3rd one now, which I'm not going to sell. I became a building inspector. I worked for a town for 2 years, also as their electrical inspector, their plumbing inspector, their HVAC inspector. And that, again, and I'm not bragging by any means. What I'm basically getting at is, if I can do it, everybody that is on this call that does not have a construction background can absolutely do this. Do not let anybody tell you that you cannot do it. We will teach you what you need to know. And these are the core topics that are in the standards of practice. So the standards of practice are they're minimum requirements. So structure, exteriors, roofing, electrical, plumbing, heating and cooling, interiors, insulation and ventilation, fireplaces, and solid fuel burning appliances. So those are the core technical topics. And then we include our business and marketing piece. So the business and marketing piece is for the individuals that want to start their own home inspection company. Now, what can you inspect? Most standards of practice are written for 1 to 4 dwelling units. So if it's a single family home, a duplex, a triplex, or a 4-family, you would need a license if you do live in a regulated state. Commercial properties are not regulated, meaning if you are currently residing in a regulated state, so let's say you're in Arizona. Okay, so Arizona has licensing. You have to have like 84 hours of education, pass the National Home Inspector's exam, and you have to do 30 ride-along inspections. Now, if somebody called you and said, I'm buying a 10-family building, I'm buying the whole building, and I want you to inspect the whole building, you do not need a license for that, because a license does not exist. So commercial is not regulated. You can make a lot of money on a commercial inspection. I did I thought it was going to be a lot creepier. I'm glad it wasn't. But last Saturday, yeah, it was Saturday, I inspected an old funeral home that had been converted into a dental office, which thank God. But there were 20 some rooms, whatever exam rooms. They had 4 furnaces, a boiler, other stuff. So it was big. It took me 4 hours. And so the way I kind of priced it was 10 cents a square foot. So it was approximately 9,000 square feet. So it took me 4 hours, and I could have probably charged more, but I charged $900 for that inspection. Because again, for 4 hours, that's over $200 an hour, which is pretty good. So commercial, you can make a lot of money commercially. Ancillary would be our add-ons. So termites, energy audits, so forth. And then new construction inspections would be, if you're going to do new construction, we're not talking about acting in the same capacity as a building inspector, but you're another set of eyes. So somebody hires you to go through the property, another set of eyes, you give them that report, but you have to know the building codes if they hire you to do phase inspections. And we do have actually inspecting commercial course. It's an online course that we offer, and our admissions team can tell you more about that. So I'll open up all these bullet points here. So how does our training work? So in addition to the technical aspects of performing a home inspection, we cover report writing, business and marketing, which again is critical for the success of your business. Our live training, now if you live close or you're willing to travel to one of our live training locations, I would highly, highly encourage you to attend a live training. Of course, we follow all the COVID guidelines and so forth, so don't worry about that. That's where you're going to get the experience. That's where you're going to be able to go out with an instructor and look at these different items and systems in a home, fill the report out, ask questions. I highly recommend the live training. If you can't attend a live training, your second best option would be the distance learning. The nice thing though with our live training is we include our distance learning course with it. So distance learning is go at your own pace. There's online exams. Don't forget you have unlimited technical support. So as long as you are a home inspector, it's not just while you're going through the course. And our hybrid course is a combination of the distance learning and the live training. But now it is going to depend on where you live. So for example, some states, well, because of COVID, there might be some states that have kind of relaxed the requirements. But for example, pre-COVID, the state of New York only accepts live training. They do not accept distance learning. So if that's the case, then you don't have the option of a hybrid or distance learning. But the hybrid course would be you go through the online, finish all of your online training, and then you sign up to do one of our live training classes. Now, what do we include? We are a company that actually gives you physical books. There's a lot of companies out there, and I get it, you try to save money, but they don't give you any physical books. They give you PowerPoint. PowerPoint slides are boring, and you have to print it all out. It might be 700, 800, 900 pages, but we write our own material. We write our own books. We write our own product, basically. So we include our practical guide to home inspection. We include our marketing and operating a profitable home inspection business. If you live in a state that requires the National Home Inspector's exam, we include the 2 National Home Inspector exam study manuals. We include a paper inspection report. Now, in a real life situation, don't ever use a paper report. You would use a digital report. okay? Something that you can use on a tablet or your phone. That's what you would want to use. That's what's expected in the industry. You can take pictures and so forth. We include just some basic tools: inspection mirror tester, GFCI tester, and electrical circuit tester. And then again, don't forget about the unlimited support. The types of reports, again, a written report book, that would be one you fill out with a pen. Don't use a book like that. Instead, you would use a digital report. Now, our report is called Inspect It. That's the report that I have used since day one. I use it because you can customize it. Realtors like it, and it's easy for my client to understand. And it's easy for me to fill out. I fill my report out as I'm going through the inspection. When I leave the property, my inspection report is done. It's finished. So don't buy into, because you'll see it, and home inspectors like it. I don't know why they like it, because I think it's a waste of time. But when you see that you can add video and all this other garbage into your report, all it's going to do is slow you down. All it is another thing that can break down. It's like when you buy a high-tech car that has all of this stuff in it, you know, all this electronics and all this other gadgetry that sounds cool on paper. It's one more thing that can break down. So keep it simple. Plus, you cannot, I mean, you could fill out, or you could record a video. That's not what's going to be accepted by a realtor. They want pictures. They're not going to sit there and watch a 5-minute video. So just remember that. These are some basic tools. We have a voltage sniffer. So that is a device that lights, this one, the tip lights up and it beeps. So if you saw an exposed wire, or you had knob and tube wiring in an attic, that'll tell you if it's live. A 3-prong tester with a GFCI button, because per the standards, we have to check GFCI outlets. Not every house that you inspect is going to have 3 prongs. So that's where a 2-prong tester comes in, because there are a lot of homes out there that still have the original 2-prong outlets. And no, they do not have to be upgraded. The only time we have to upgrade stuff is if that panel is fused. Insurance companies don't like that. A combustible gas detector. For years I used a combustible gas detector. I don't anymore. A good rechargeable flashlight. You're going to be in dark places, attic, crawl space, basement. You want something that really lights the area up. A 17-foot multi-position ladder. So you can go in attics, you can get on a roof. Now, I know that there's going to be some of you right now are thinking, well, how do you get up on a 2-story house if that ladder doesn't reach? If the ladder doesn't reach, I'm not getting on the roof. There aren't any standards of practice that require me to get on a roof. I'll view it from the ground with binoculars, or some people use a drone. Up to you. And I've been using a 17-foot multi-position ladder since 2002. And not once have I been questioned by a client of why I did not get up on the roof. A water pressure gauge, that'll tell you what the water pressure is, because if it's over 80 PSI, then we'd recommend a qualified plumbing contractor, because anything over 80 PSI can cause problems with our water distribution lines, our fixtures. A non-invasive moisture meter. When you see a moisture stain on the wall, client or the realtor is going to say, is that active? It's not required to carry one of these, but you should carry one. A telescoping mirror. You can look behind things. You can check for drafting issues. You'll have other tools as well. These are just some basic tools. So we are getting near the end here. So the AHIT Advantage. We've been in business since 1993. We have over 50,000 graduates. We have over 70 live training locations across the United States. We include our business and marketing piece. You get to perform actual home inspections when you attend one of our live training classes. We are an approved education provider for pre-licensing as well as continuing education. We work with partners that offer ancillary certifications. For example, like our wood destroying insect course. Our partner is Purdue University out of Indiana. We have instructors on call 7 days a week. You actually can speak to an instructor who's a home inspector. A lot of these other schools, you're going to speak to a salesperson if you have a technical question. We include the National Home Inspector exam manuals if you live in a state that requires you to take the National Home Inspector exam. We have the latest books in the industry, and like I mentioned, we are the largest in the country, and we have trained the most home inspectors. As far as I know, we've trained the most in the United States. Our Brookfield, Wisconsin course, I actually teach that course. That course, if you are in the military, you can use your GI Bill benefits to attend that live training. Now, if you have your cell phone or you want to take a screenshot of this, these are questions that you should ask other home inspection training schools when you're doing your homework. Now, of course, again, we hope that you attend one of our training courses, but as you're doing your research, these are questions to ask them. How long have you been in business? How many inspectors have you trained? Do you offer business and marketing training as part of your curriculum? And by the way, with how long have you been in business, their way around that is they're going to use maybe their instructor or their instructors, how long they've been a home inspector. That's typically what they will say, or with 19 years of experience, blah, blah, blah. They haven't been around for 19 years. Maybe somebody that's working for them has. Do you offer business and marketing? Does your course help with report writing? Remember, that is a critical part of your business, of staying in business. How many live training locations do you have across the United States? Do you provide physical books or just PowerPoint slides? A lot of our competitors, like I mentioned, are just giving you PowerPoint slides because that is a way for them to save money. Do you have full-time experienced home inspectors on call to answer questions 7 days a week? That's a big one because you're not going to do inspections Monday through Friday. You're going to probably do an inspection on Saturday or Sunday. If I have nothing going on the weekend, I'll do 2 inspections each day. Why wouldn't I? Does your course prepare me to pass the National Home Inspectors exam? If so, how? Is it some sort of app that has questions? Like I said before, we give you the actual manuals that were written by the Examination Board of Professional Home Inspectors. That's the group that writes the National Home Inspector exam questions. Do you offer lifetime support to your graduates that covers technical and marketing questions? Do you have your own reporting software? Now, that is another thing. When you are looking at a company and they're all in prices, let's say, and one of the common prices is like $695. And they say, we include free software for life. We include all of these add-on services. Do not buy into that. I would never use a software that was free. Our software is not free. We may let you use it for a short period of time, like a short-term lease, but we sell it because we have spent a lot of time and a lot of money in developing our software. So just be careful of that, because I mentioned this earlier. That report is one of the, it's the most important thing that a home inspector carries. So if somebody's giving me something for free, and I can get potentially sued for X amount of money, I would question that. And again, I'm just telling you this from being a home inspector and being an instructor and reviewing competitors' courses and their software. And then, will the add-on courses actually lead to a certification? Or are they just PDFs, informational PDFs that you can find online anyway that are free? All of our ancillary stuff will lead to a certification if that's what you want. Now you can go online and visit ahit.com/training or /reviews, or you can look at our instructors. You can also call our admissions team, but 800-441-9411. So if you have any questions relating to how much, when's the next class, so forth, they'll be able to answer those questions for you. Now I'm going to open this up and see what questions were not answered by our admissions team. And again, if they are any questions that pertain to like how much, next class, and so forth, I'm not going to answer those. To work with a local company, do you need your own tools? Now, it depends. There are some companies that provide everything for you. There are companies that you have to basically provide your own tools and everything. Let's see, another question here. If I do CE classes after getting a license, will those hours count towards the renewal when the time comes? Yes, they will. Let's see, do you know the percentage of women of color in the home inspection field? It's a good question, Amber. One of the most successful people that I actually trained was a female. She was retired Air Force, and she was a woman of color, and she came up to our Wisconsin class, no technical background at all, which again, that's near and dear to my heart. And I really just mentored her because I saw just fantastic potential in her. And we stayed in contact. I told her, just keep going with stuff. I reviewed reports for her, and I got an email from her. I haven't talked to her in a while now, but I got an email or a text, I think it was last year, where she had hired her second employee, which was fantastic. That's I love hearing stuff like that. So let's see what we have. Some more questions here. A lot of these are how much. If you don't pass the exam the first time, you get charged another fee for taking the exam. Not for our exam, but the National Home Inspector's exam. Yes, you do. What is the requirement for Ohio? Ohio is a little bit in a holding pattern right now. Things have been tabled, but then they kind of talk about it again. So we're not exactly sure what's going on in Ohio right now. You talk to one of our admissions counselors. I know that I've been working on an Ohio class to put together. So I just don't know if anything has been, kind of the enforced or whatever. I don't believe so. Ancillary services, do you offer those? We do. Our partner schools, because we focus on home inspection, our partners focus on what they're good at. Does the national exam fulfill New York State licensing requirements? Yes, I believe the national home inspector exam now was adopted by New York. They did have their own exam, but I believe they just went to the national home inspector's exam. And let's see what else. Have you ever found a real estate agent becoming a home inspector? Sure. You just cannot inspect anything that you're selling or anything that you have a monetary interest in. Let's see. Are inspectors in high demand in Florida? So Florida is one of the states that has the most potential that I have seen for basically making money. Because Florida has something called 4-point inspections. They have wind mitigation inspections. They have home inspections. They do radon. They do termites. So there's a lot of different options in Florida. And how much to get a license in Utah? Utah is not a regulated state. And I think we do have a training course actually in Orlando, but again, our admissions team can help you with that. What is the demand for inspectors in Michigan? I'm not exactly sure, Todd. What I would do if you live in Michigan is call a local real estate office. Realtors are very helpful, and they'll answer questions for you. They'll tell you, how much a home inspection costs in your area, and so forth. How does repairs, if they are needed to complete before the sale of the home? Example, broken window part. We have nothing to do with that. For example, today on that duplex that I inspected this morning, there were a lot of broken windows and cracked windows. All I did was put that in my report that the windows were cracked or broken, and I recommended repair or replacing as needed. That's all I do. It's all a home inspector does, and then you move on. And no, you should not offer any repair services. That's a conflict of interest. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening.